Hi everybody, Keith here. I'm in my trailer, my little 16-foot trailer that I bought, and I'm doing this here because I'm not allowed to do this in the house. Sometimes they smell odd. So what I'm going to do today is I have my dehydrator, and I have some blackberries, raspberries, more blackberries. These are kind of cool. I've never seen these before. Golden berries. What else? Blueberries, cranberries, some grapes. I'm going to make my own raisins. And then I have some nuts and seeds. So it's just a mixture that I'll be mixing into it. And lastly, I have strawberries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to dry these to the point where they're basically going to be a powder. And what I'm going to be making with all of this is I'm going to be making pemmican. Pemmican is it's an ancient, been used for millenniums. I mean, it's an ancient survival food. It's made with beef tallow, which is rendered beef fat, which, by the way, thank you to Mike LaMarche, AJ Desjardins, and Wayne Green at the IGA Intimus, because they were the guys that saved a bunch of fat for me, and they gave me like 25 pounds of fat. So I've got this bag full of this rendered beef fat. And there's more than enough for me to do what I'm doing here. But then what also I'm going to be doing is showing you how to make beef suet. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making suet blocks that I'll be using for feeding the birds around here during the summer. And that'll be something else that I'll be making with the tallow. But just to show you how versatile it's something that we throw away, that we cut off and throw into the garbage, how we can actually do something with it. This stuff, when it's done, it's a mixture of all of this. And then you would take, say, equal amounts of the dried berries and the tallow. And then the last ingredient, I have it in the freezer. I bought this huge round roast, which, again, from raw, I'm going to dry it in here. And when that's dried, it's going to be to the point where you won't even be able to chew on it. It's going to be so hard. And then what you do is you blend it all into a blender, mix it with all of these berries that have also been blended, because after you break these down, they're going to get kind of gooey again, and then you have to dry them even more. But you have to take as much of that moisture out as you can. By the time you're done with this, when you mix all these three ingredients together, the tallow hardens a lot better than, say, lard would. Because if you left just lard sitting on the counter, it'd be just soft and gooey. Where tallow stays firm. I guess it's because it's just pure fat. There's nothing else in it. I'm not sure the reason why, but it's perfect for making stuff like this. So tonight what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start with taking all of these berries, and I'm going to be loading them up into these trays, loading the tray into the dehydrator, and I'm going to dry all of these. I'm going to set it for the first part of it for 24 hours because it takes a long time to dry these things. It'll be a few days to do the full drying process. But yeah, so I'm just going to start loading these things up. So let's start with some blackberries. So we just spread them all out. I'm just going to throw the containers over here. Oh, by the way, my Caesar's out of the view, which is nice. I'm kind of thirsty. Okay, so there's our blackberries, which we have a lot of room for. So we'll move those over so that we keep them all to one side. And because these are so big, we don't have to worry about them falling through the cracks. There's pieces that I can use for even the nuts. I'm going to put them in and see if I can dry some of the moisture out of them. There's usually not a lot of moisture. Most of the moisture in those is in oil. Okay, so there's the blackberries. How about if we throw the blueberries in there? Where do we open this one? Right here. Yeah. There we go. Ooh, that's a lot of blueberries. Oops. Okay, so I'll move these over a little bit more. Give some room for all those blueberries. Oh, they look good. Yeah. They're good. Okay, one tray. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of stuff in here. And once the moisture starts coming out of these things, you'll see how quickly these things don't take up nearly as much room. They just dry right down to nothing in here. So here, we'll grab this tray next, and we'll put some raspberries. Get rid of that. Okay, some leaves in here. There we go. And this is the golden berries. They actually have a nice sweet flavor to them. I've never seen these before. I'm not really sure where they're from. But, country of origin? Oh, from Colombia. That's why I've never seen them before. Really, really sweet. You have a stickiness on the surface because they're so sweet. Okay, next. No. Yeah. We're not going to use all of the cranberries. There's just way too much cranberries. I don't like them that much. I don't want the thing getting overpowered by tasting them just like cranberries, so. Right, there we go. So what I'll be doing while I'm doing this is there'll be pictures of this stuff, just to show you what everything looks like close up. And after the 24 hours of drying this, we'll do the same again just to show you the huge difference in how dry they get. Now, I'm not a really big fan of cranberries, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of them. I just want to do a little more here, just to fill this area up. There, that's enough. Okay, so there's our cranberries. Nope, piece fell through. Oh, a bunch of pieces fell through. Okay, so we're picking those up off the bottom, most likely. That's good. Okay, next, grapes. I was going to buy raisins, and I thought, just make our own. I want to see how they turn out. I've never tried this before, so we're going to dry these down and see how dry we can get them. And let's see if we can get them actually down to the point where they're like a raisin. But we still have to get them drier than that, because by the time we dry all this, this stuff should be... Oop, I dropped one. This stuff should be a powder. And it should break down like that when you put it through a blender, because there shouldn't be any moisture in it. And this stuff, what's nice about it, like you put it together hot and you put it into mason jars, and if it's sealed properly, this stuff will last for years sitting on a shelf. If you had to do that, you can put it inside of mason jars, you can put it inside of any tight sealing jar, and then you can have this stuff where it'll last indefinitely. What I'm doing with this is I'm going to make two different styles. I'm going to make this one style that's going to have a lot of the fruit in it. All the fruit that you see here is going to end up being in this. And then I'm going to make another part of it that's going to be made with just the hamburger. But that one I'm going to make it's something where I'm going to be able to use this on meals. So what I'm going to be doing with that one is I'm going to be adding salt, pepper. I'm going to be adding a bit of salt to this one for flavor as well. But I'll be adding mostly salt, pepper, and hot sauces. I want to decorate that one, and I want to make it something that if I want to throw something, like say, into a soup, or if I'm frying something up, the oil that's in this, you take this, you break it down, that oil is good for frying with. But then after it's broken down, you'll have the hamburger, you'll have all the spices and everything inside of it. So you don't have to worry about carrying a lot of that stuff with you. You have it with you inside of that tallow, or inside of the, excuse me, inside of the pemmican that you just made. And if you make pemmican right, it actually doesn't taste that bad. It just seems odd because it's such a, well, you're making a fat, meat, and a bunch of fruit. So you're getting all kinds of protein, you're getting all kinds of carbs, you're getting tons of calories. And at the same time, it's a really healthy, it's a healthy alternative. And it's really easy to go out for a day and not have to worry about bringing a bunch of gear with you for cooking. You don't have to bring anything with you. You can actually just take this and just eat it the way it is. And what's nice about, oh, here, I gotta put it in this one. Yeah, they're not gonna stay. I need that strainer thing. So we're gonna switch these over to here. Yes, but what's nice about this is you can, have a small cube of this, and you believe it or not, it's like your entire calorie needs for, say, 2 days. So you can go outside with a small amount, and even if you do get stuck anywhere, and if I have to stay out overnight and I'm not ready for it, at least I'm going to drop these all. At least I don't have to worry about bringing a bunch of food with me and not having enough with me. Something like this, it's great as an emergency snack. But like I said, if you take this and you melt it down and you use that as your oil from when you're cooking eggs, I like everything with spices on it, so I would have a whole bunch of spices loaded into this, and that's my intention with it. These are going to take forever to dry. They're just so big, I'm almost tempted to cut them in half. I am going to dry them for 24 hours first. But yeah, I'm just going to leave them piled like this. They're sitting kind of high, but it won't take too long before they break down. So that is that. Is that going to close? No, it's not. So we're going to have to move some off. Oh, we got another one here. Right. We'll use this one. Now we'll just pull a whole bunch out so that we can spread these down. There. Now that should work. Yeah, let's try that. There we go. Perfect. We'll move these over. And we've got our strawberries. Now for the strawberries, I'm going to cut the little back things off here. Oops. And I'm going to cut these down because they're kind of big. This summer, what I'm planning on doing is, my shoulder is feeling much better this year, and I'm going to be hitting the trails in my canoe again. And I'm planning on, it'll be in Zachrestigo as usual, but I'm planning on hitting some lakes that, it sucks. Excuse me. I still have a bit of a cold. I'm planning on hitting some of the lakes that I've never been to. I've been on to watch, but not very much of it, so I want to explore more of that lake this year. Another one that Golan. I haven't ever been onto Golan Lake, so I want to try that. And I wouldn't mind, depending on how the road is, I would like to go back to Magnissippi. Just that emerald green water. I would love to go and see that again. Not sure if I'll make it there because that part of the road is kind of iffy, and I know what it did to my last vehicle, my RAV4 that I went through there with that. That was a really big mistake because I did so much damage to that vehicle on that trip. I never ever had the suspension on that working properly again. That road just killed my vehicle. And a lot of people were saying to me, you'll never make it in there. You'll never make it in there. Oh, I made it in, but the thing is the vehicle never made it. And it lasted the summer, but I had to scrap it by the end of that year. I just had so many issues. But it's the lake itself. It's just an incredible lake. You have 40 feet of water and you can actually look down and you can see bottom. It's just so crystal clean. And it's the very first lake in the chain that starts from that. It would be the eastern end of Zachrestigo, and it's the very first lake in the chain that feeds right through where I am, Little Desjardins, and into Big Desjardins, and on into the Desjardins River, and right into the Kippewa River and into Lake Kippewa. So this place, I mean, Lake Kippewa is such beautiful areas, and the water is so clean, but Magnissippi, the water there is incredible. What I was saying was, Cognawana, the club, is really close. It's only a couple of kilometers away from this lake, and I'm sure if I talked to some of the people there, I'm sure I could convince them to, say, drive me into there, leave me there for a couple of days, and just let me have some fun, and then, you know, four-wheeler me back out so that I don't have to kill my vehicle. Because I like the car. I like the one that I have now. I'm driving a Mitsubishi Outlander, and it's a tank. I love the thing, and it's great. It's really long. There's lots of room for me to camp out in it, as I usually do. And it's a nice vehicle. I like to continue keeping it, but I'm hard on vehicles. Okay, so here what I've got is, this is more cranberries. That's why I didn't want to put too much more in. And then there's, I guess it's pumpkin seeds, a little bit of walnut, some cashews, just a few little different types of nuts. I wanted to add, not a whole lot, I just wanted to add some to it. But again, these things are all going to be broken up in a blender as well. And so this is going to be my top layer. And yep, that fits. So there we go. We're all set up. So here, let's just get rid of some stuff here. We'll clean this up after. Just move it over. Okay, now I'm going to move this so I can see it a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this for 24 hours. So I'm just going to go in here. 24 hours, and I'm going to put the temperature up all the way. So this one here, I can go up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and I have it set for 24 hours, and there we go. We're going to let it go. So this thing's going to run for 24 hours, and 24 hours from now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to check it out and see what it looks like, move things around, help them to dry out, and we'll probably put it on for another 24 hours. And we're going to have to do that for some of this probably for 3 days. And then once that's all dried and turned into a powder, like I'll show you what I do with that, then we're going to start drying the meat. And then once the meat's all dried, then I have to start working on the tallow, because I just broken the tallow down and I filtered it once, but I'm going to have to run it through cheesecloth again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I do with it here, and then I'm going to be canning the rest of it, like I said. So the tallow itself, just the oil, like I said, I'm going to be keeping that in jars. So like I said, if I can keep that indefinitely. But what I do with it is I keep it in my deep freeze. I have a deep freeze for all of my stuff. It's the stuff that I use for the bush. Any of the stuff that I get, like the fish guts, everything, it all goes into this freezer. And there's a lot of weird stuff that goes into that freezer that ends up out for food for whatever animals. And it's all part of the job. But yes, we're going to let this thing run for 24 hours. And after it's done, we'll come back and we'll check it out again. Excusez pour cette segment ici. C'est difficile pour moi pour tous les mots de faire ça en français. Pour cette raison, je fais juste en anglais pour cet exemple ici. Excusez pour ça, ok? C'est correct pour moi de parler en français, mais quand je connais pas les mots, c'est pas... It's not good for me to do it because I don't feel right about doing it. I'm sorry, but some of it this here, because I just don't know the words. I apologize, but for this one here, I'm just going to do it in English. Okay, I'll say a couple of things in French in between, but merci pour tout. I hope you understand. All right, take care. We'll see you guys back in 24 hours. Hi everybody. Okay, we're back. So it's been 24 hours and let's check this out. So this one, the top level, this isn't going to change very much. It's just nuts. They're not going to, they'll dry out somewhat. You can feel the cashews are getting, like, they're dry on the outside. So it's just taking a lot of the moisture out of this, which is good. See, this is what I'm looking for. You see how the cranberries are, they're starting to break up. They don't, see, they're still too dry. They're still too wet yet. These ones anyways. But they're getting close. So let's see what the next level looks like. Okay, this is, here's my grapes, my strawberries. Strawberries are great. That's what I'm looking for. You see, is I want to have it so it breaks up. There's virtually no moisture left in them. These are still pretty hard. And I think before I go any farther with these, I'm going to cut them in half. And it'll help to dry them out faster. So that's my next level. Okay, this is all grapes. They're getting, yeah, see, they're getting pretty solid. The ones on the outside, just because they didn't get as much of the heat, they don't dry as well, so we'll move those around. And underneath here we've got these berries are cool. Oh, look at them. Those are drying really neat. And then this is our cranberries, and wow, they're getting hard. Raspberries. Wow, look at this. The raspberries are here. I'll show you. And that's what I want all of this to do. So I'm just going to toss this back in here. And I want them that dry. And then when I break them down, they break into a powder. So here's my blueberries. They're getting pretty hard. And here's the blackberries. And that's pretty much that's everything here. So everything is drying well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the camera down for a few minutes, and I'm going to restack everything and pull everything that's dried out. And the rest of it I'm going to just move it around so that it gets drier. And I'm going to stick it on for another 24 hours, and then we'll come back tomorrow and we're going to check it again. So I'm going to shut it down for now, and yeah, I'll see you guys in 24 hours and see what happens, okay? Bye now. So these here are all of my fruit. There's strawberries. You see how dry they are. There's raspberries. They just break down to nothing. There's blackberries. Blueberries are down here. This here is all of the raisins. Well, grapes that are raisins now, and a mixture of fruits and nuts, cranberries. Same with this pile here. So this stuff is going to get all mixed up in a blender, and it's going to be breaking down into a fine powder, and that's going to end up being mixed in with our next step, which is right here. So we've got 3 layers here, so it's cut up reasonably big right now. And this is just a round roast. We trimmed some of the fat off. We got as much as we could. I don't want to start cutting into the grain. There's not very much fat on this, so it shouldn't really affect the pemmican that much. But this is going to be our next step. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this on to dry for another 24 hours, and we'll see what everything looks like after that. All right, let's give it another shot. See you in 24 hours. Bonjour tout le monde. Ok, regardez ça. Ça, c'est la même viande que je mets dans mon sécheur hier. Puis c'est 24 heures. Puis regarde, c'est pas trop sec. Il y a beaucoup de moisture là-dedans. Puis avec ça, ça ne marche plus parce que quand les viandes sont toutes propres, quand tu fais comme ça casse. Là, ça c'est pas pire, mais il y a beaucoup de moisture là-dedans encore. Je vais faire la même chose encore pour un autre 24 heures. Puis je vais regarder encore demain soir, ok? Alright. Okay. Hi guys. Here's the roast beef that I started last night. So yeah, it's starting to get pretty dry, but it's not quite there yet. It still has quite a bit of moisture in it, because it should break and it still feels soft. So I'm going to run the dehumidifier for another 24 hours, and we'll let it go, because this stuff, when it's completely dry, it should just snap in my fingers and should just break apart. And then afterwards, all of this, along with these ingredients over here, will get thrown into a blender, and they're just going to get broken down into a fine powder. And I'll show you how we do the rest of this pemmican. All right, night. I'm back again. All right, so here's my roast beef. And like I said, this has to be really dry. Check how dry that is. You can see the imprint of the mesh where it was laying. But this is how dry it is. But this is what it looks like when it's shredded. So you see, it's just a dried powder. And there's still little chunks in it. I'll have to go through it here and do a little more refining to it, because I'll have to I can feel little pieces in there, and you want it to be a fine powder, because the fine powder will really absorb the oil. So yes, so I'm gonna have to load this up into the blender here and break it all down. I'm not gonna run this, I'm just gonna blend it all, and after it's blended I'll come back and show you what it all looks like, okay? Because it's just gonna be too loud to run the blender. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. As you can see, my roast beef is completely shredded. So it's this dry powder. It's really, really fine. And this is going to be the base for my pemmican. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is, this part's going to be a little more difficult because I'm going to have to re-dry these afterwards. But I'm going to have to break down all of this fruit. The same with these two things of fruit. I'm going to have to break these all down into a powder as well as this, and I'll show you what they'll be looking like. They'll be pretty much the same thing, just ground into a really fine powder. So I'll be back in a little bit and I'll show you what that looks like. So here we go. Everything is dried. So this here is our dried beef. Like I said, it's just dried into a fine powder. And this here is all the fruit. So this is strawberries and raspberries, blackberries, those little freaky orange berries, I forget what they were called, cranberries, just all kinds of berries. But again, it's just a really fine powder when it's all done. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mixing that with a little pause here with this is my frozen beef tallow. So this is all rendered beef fat, and it's just the oil itself that's left, and all the cracklings, I guess you would call them. That was the part that I filtered out, but I'll be melting that back down and adding some spices to some of this, along with a little bit of salt and this tallow, and then I'm going to be making it into a paste, and it's just going to spread it out in a pan and let it harden. And then afterwards you've got this super high calorie, high protein, high carb meal, and you can take just a small little square and it's enough for a meal. It's a great way to carry a lot of food in a small package. So yeah, that's going to be our next step, is getting that all melted down, and I'll show you what we're going to do next. So here's my beef tallow. It's melting down right now, and it's going down nicely. So I've got it on a really low heat because I don't want to scorch this stuff in any way. And all I've been doing is just giving it a gentle stir, but it's doing this thing on its own. It's not sticking anywhere, and it should be, I'm going to have to filter it again. So that's what this is for. So I'm just going to filter it into this pot. And then afterwards it's going into either these mason jars or into my 2 different batches. So this here, batch 1 here is a mixture of half of the beef and half of the fruits mixed with, you can see on top here, a little bit of salt. And then this one I made it a little bit heavier. So this one here has a little bit of salt. It's got the other half of the beef, the other half of the fruits. But then it also has garlic powder, onion powder, and all what I have is sauces. I like spicy. So I didn't really have any spices, sorry. And so what I did was I used some red pepper, you know, the stuff that your mom always had in the cupboard that she used a little bit in spaghetti. Well, there's a tablespoon in there to spice it up a little. So these 2 are going to get mixed up with some of this oil, of course. And then once they're all done, I'm going to be adding those into some containers, throwing it into the fridge here and letting it harden. And then tomorrow we'll actually do a taste test of it and see how it turned out. But yeah, we're just going to let this keep on going. Oh, there's my beer in a cup. We're just going to let this keep on melting here. And after it's melted, we'll filter it and show you what everything looks like and what kind of gunk is left in here. I don't know how, I've already filtered it once, so I don't know how dirty it is. I don't think it will be really be very much left into it because I filtered it through some of this cloth when I made this stuff a year ago. Yeah, that's how good this stuff is. This stuff it'll keep indefinitely. You'll be able to leave this on a shelf. I keep it in a freezer just to keep it that much safer. But the nice part about this stuff is when it's all packed, it's kind of like you know, your Christmas cake that you can leave out for 100 years and it never seems to rot. Well, this stuff is pretty much the same way. You can leave it for years, and if you were to freeze this, you could leave it indefinitely and use it just as you need it. But when you're finished making this stuff, a small piece of this goes a long way. So yeah, this is my operation. Like I said, I'm doing this all out of my trailer. And here's the background where I'm showing all the other crap that I'm using. And yeah, it's not a very big trailer, but it's mine. And I'm going to have fun staying in this thing next summer in Kibble. Okay, so I'm going to let this go. And I'll be back and I'll show you where we go to next. There we go. That's looking good. So I'm melting down the last of the tallow now, and it's really breaking down nice. There's a little bit of impurities. You can see some stuff down on the bottom here. There was some little bead particles and stuff that I'm glad I got rid of. But then this here is a jar of the rendered fat. It's just still in liquid form because it's still warm. And I've got 2 full jars of it so far, and I don't need nearly this much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer some of this up. So if there's anybody who wants to do outdoorsy stuff like, say, Boy Scout leaders or anybody else, I'm going to be giving some of this stuff away. So if you're interested in getting some tallow that's all made and ready to go, with this I'll be posting my info with it. And if you want some of this stuff, like I said, I'm going to be giving some of it away because I just have way too much for myself. And well, that's unless the zombie apocalypse hits, then this stuff would really come in handy. But for now, I'll give it away. Alright, so this is my next step. Next thing we'll be doing is combining the ingredients, and then I'll show you how that looks at that point. So yeah, I got another, say, half hour, 45 minutes of work, and I'll be back again. So this here is the batch that doesn't have any of the spices in it, and I made it into 2 separate cakes, and it's got just enough tallow that you can see it as glistening, but it's not really like soaked in oil, because you don't want to do that because then it's going to taste terrible. You just want enough for it to bind everything, and then you let it sit, because like all of the nuts, all the dried fruit, they're going to soak up all of those oils. And right now you try it, you can taste the crunchies in it because everything is still kind of dry. But after it's sat and the oil is allowed to absorb into it, then it ends up being more like a bar. And it's quite tasty bar because they're quite sweet. And this is the other stuff. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I have the oil here. It's just sitting on a simmer, and I'm just going to dump some of it in here. There. So I'm going to get to stirring with this, but I can't do this and hold a camera, so I'm going to pause, and I'm going to make this into the same type of cakes that you have here. And then I'm going to take all 4 of these, and I'm just going to let them sit on the counter. I'm going to cover them up, of course. I'll put the covers on each of them, and I'm going to let them sit out here and just let them soak up in the heat. And then once they've sat overnight, then I'm going to take them, I'm going to put them in the refrigerator, and by then they'll already harden themselves, because tallow is a solid, pretty much a solid at room temperature. It's not like lard. It does, you know how lard, how soft it is? Well, this stuff isn't the same way. It's got a lot more firmness to it, and that's why it's perfect for something like this, because if you tried making this with lard, it would just fall apart. You wouldn't be able to cut it, where this here, you'll actually be able to cut it into squares and make it into bars. Yeah, so let me get back to work here, and I'm going to get the spicy batch all mixed up. C'est tout fini. All right, yes, everything is all made. Okay, so this is the one that has the spices in it, and as you can see, compared to the other one, you can see there's more of a sheen to this one. It's not as, it's a little more liquidy, and I did that on purpose, because this one here, I intend on using that to add to like stews and soups and stuff like that, where you just take a block of that, you know, throw it into a frying pan and cook your eggs with it. You know, it's got a lot of oil in it, and it's got a lot of good things in it, so everything is, it's all relative. When you're out in the bush, like what I'm doing, you want to have something that's light and easy, and it may not be the tastiest food in the world, but it works. You know, there's a lot of calories in it. It really keeps your energy up, and believe it or not, this stuff doesn't taste half bad. So I'm going to cover it up. Like I said, I'm going to let it sit out for 24 hours and just let it cure itself. And then after that, I'm going to throw it in the fridge for another 24 hours and let it sit again. And in a couple of days from now, I'm going to give it a shot and try it out. And of course, I'll have the camera running when I do that. So yeah, you're not going to see any scrunchy faces or anything like that. I've already tried this stuff out. It's not bad tasting at all. I've made this before, but if for anybody who's not aware of it, pemmican is, wow, oh God, it's been made since before time itself, I imagine. It's an ancient, very ancient native survival food. And again, you know, when you're out and you're away and you need something to eat, something like this, there's, oh God, I bet you there's a 4-day supply here. You know, there's your calories, the protein, everything you would need in this little container would keep you well nourished in this little wee thing for 4 days easily. And that's how nutritious this stuff is. And that's what I love about it. It's going to get used up by me. But again, here, hang on, I'll show you here. So these, I have 3 full jars. I have them sitting in the fridge. And then I have a little bit left. There's a little bit of the tallow left, which I'm going to put in this other jar. And I'll make use of that soon. But yes, I'm going to keep one of these jars for myself. And like I said, I've got the 2 other jars that are sitting here in my fridge. And yeah, just sitting right down here on the bottom. And those 2, I'm just going to be giving them away. So I'm going to mention it on Facebook. And if there's anybody interested, I know there's a few people that might be interested in it. I'm going to try them out first. And if they're not interested, I'm just going to be offering it up for anybody who wants to experiment with trying stuff like this. If you really wanted to get into some people call it survival, but it's bushcraft more than anything, and that's what I like about it. If you're interested, once I put it up, you can have it. I'm just going to give it away, as long as people use it for the right reasons. All right. Okay, we'll see you in 2 days.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Okay, we're at home and here's my two unwilling victims, my daughter Em and John, her boyfriend. So the two of them are going to be trying my pemmican. So this one here, that's on the left side of the screen, is the one that's made to be sweet, and it's made to be melted down into like oatmeal, stuff like that. This one here has got more spices in it, and it's meant to be put into things like soups and stews and stuff like that. So what I want to get each of you to do is first off, I want you to try the spicy one. It's not super spicy, just try a little bit of each one. You don't have to try much. What do you think? The crunchiness is the nuts that were put into it that are little wee solids. So it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor, does it? It's made with cayenne. Huh? Yes,
Yeah,
it's gritty.
gritty.
Yeah, it's gritty because of the nuts that are in it. Now this one here, try the other one now. So it's the sweeter one. See, when you make these, you can eat them just like that, but they're mainly meant to be put into other types of food. So it's got a lot more flavor to it, right?
That one tastes better.
You like that one better? This one
Also,
here.
that one's the one that has the spice
Yeah,
in it.
that's the
not
spicy
that
one, that's the sweet one.
Oh, I got them backwards?
Yeah.
That one tastes better.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's
the better one.
okay. So, hang on. I got them mixed up. You're right. I got the plates mixed up.
Well,
What do you
I
think of
know
this
that
stuff?
I'm right.
What do you think of this
Taste the
stuff?
difference.
What do you think of it?
That one tastes better. I would not eat that one again.
Okay. Now,
The
It's
spices in it
meant-
taste good, but
Yeah.
mixed with
It's-
the texture.
it's meant to survive off food. So it's not meant to be something you're eating every day. It's just meant for something for you to try out. And
Maybe if you mixed it with something, it would be better. But
well, that's what I do with it, is I mix it with different foods. And that's how I use it in cooking. So the one that's got the spiciness to it, I would put that into like soups and spaghettis and stuff like that. So it adds a little bit of flavor and a whole lot of calories too. Because it's just made with rendered beef fat, vegetables and nuts and fruit. So it's got so many things that are really healthy for you, and it's got tons and tons of calories. And that's what I wanted to do. Thank you very much for trying this out with me, okay? My unwilling victims. Thanks, guys.